Hey guys, it's Lindsay and welcome back to my channel. This is take two. I was filming this video and then in the middle of it I got a phone call from one of my other employers, so I had to go ahead and answer that. But anyway, today's video is going to be my O.W.L.S wrap up and my April wrap up. So we're just going to put them together. It's basically the same list, but I wanted to go ahead and get started on this. And I also want to let you know, if you hear like a whistling sound in the background, there is a very strong windstorm coming through Dallas today. So there is probably going to be some whistling in this video, so just ignore that. Another thing too is I am doing a lot of filming today and I'm not changing my clothes. So you'll see this attire for the next couple of videos. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into what I read this month and what I did for the owls. So the first book I ended up reading was for Transfiguration, which was read a book that included shape-shifting. And for this, I read the first story that is in the In the Mood for Love anthology by Evelyn Goulet, Millie Taden, and Kate Baxter. The first book being Bearing His Touch, and that one was written by Evelyn Goulet. It was cute. I think I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars, and this one had shape-shifting in it towards the end of the novel, but nonetheless, you still read about the guy changing into his beast or whatever. And I'm also going to hold this up for Potions, which was read a book that was under 150 pages. And for this, I read the second story that is in here, and that is Fake Mated to the Wolf by Millie Taden. And this one I also gave, I believe, 3 stars to. It was cute, not my favorite out of them all, but I did read those first 2. There is one more story left in here, and I do plan on finishing that for the month of May, but that will be talked about in a later video. So there's that. So the next book that I ended up reading was for Herbology, which was Mimbletonia, sorry. Read a book that started with the letter M, and for that I ended up reading My Favorite Half Night Stand by Christina Lauren. This one was cute. This one is like a friends to lovers book, and also I gave this one 4 stars. It was really cute, and I'm trying to read a lot of Christina Lauren's backlist, so I ended up picking up this one. I also have another one of their books planned for May, which I will also talk about in my next video or a later video. But this was okay. I liked it. Would I read it again? Probably not, but it wasn't terrible. I've read some pretty awful Christina Lauren books, but this was not one of them. So I rather enjoyed it, and this one is about like online dating, so it's also actually pretty cute, and I liked it. All right. The next book I read was for Defense Against the Dark Arts, which was Grindylows, a book set at the sea or coast. So this book was a book that I planned on, or that I was reading in the month of March, and then the coronavirus thing happened and I just didn't feel like reading anything. I just felt like binge watching TV and YouTube videos and, you know, doing other things besides reading. And this one was part of a series that I was like really happy that I was reading. And that is Escaping from Houdini by Carrie Maniscalco. This is book 3 in the Stalking Jack the Ripper series. I'm gonna tell you that I did not like this one. This one was not my favorite. This was unnecessary drama, unnecessary love triangle, just pretty unnecessary in general. I see why they had to do this for, you know, getting from London to New York, but this was just not one of my favorite books. I don't think it did anything for the series, and it just caused drama where, you know, it didn't need to be placed. So I ultimately ended up giving this book 3 stars or 3.5 stars. Like I said, it wasn't absolutely god awful, but it wasn't something that I was quite expecting with this world, and I don't think it benefited anybody in any way. But again, I know I had to read this in order to read the 4th book, so this book I had to pretty much force myself to read because I knew like I had to finish this in order to move on to the next. So this one was okay, but again, not the greatest. Next was Muggle Studies, which was read a book from a perspective of a Muggle or a contemporary novel. For that, it was All Your Perfects by Colleen Hoover. And let me tell you, this book made me cry a few times. This one is about a couple who is struggling with infertility, and they go through like a 7-year gap. So there are chapters from then and chapters from now. So there's like then chapters of, you know, when they first got together and started, you know, dating, to the now chapters where they're in their, you know, in the midst of their infertility struggle. And this was really hard to read, but you know, it was also a very beautiful book. And it gives you hope. It gives you, you know, a whole other meaning to people who are dealing with infertility. And it got me. It got me real good. And I ended up giving this 4 stars. Again, there was a couple of things that were problematic, and I didn't think were necessary for the overall plot of the story, but it did really get me. And this is probably one of her better books by Colleen Hoover. So I highly recommend this, but if you are dealing with infertility issues, please be aware that there is a very heavy trigger warning for it within this book. And it's kind of hard to see the main characters go through such an emotional journey. But in the end, they also find themselves. So it was very good, but also very gripping and, you know, hard to read sometimes. So there's that. And then this is where things started to be moving around again. So at the beginning of this, I had originally set a TBR of 8 books. I changed a total of 4 of them. Or 5 of them. I changed 5 of them. So I kept 3 from the original TBR, but I had to change things because I'm a very big mood reader, and so I could not go along with like some of the things that I was just like, I can't read this, I'm not in the mood for it. So then I would switch. And so the next book I ended up reading was for Arithmetic, which was read something outside of your favorite genre. I am not a big fantasy reader, although I have a bunch of fantasy. I haven't read them. I have an entire shelf of fantasy. I haven't read them. So there's a good portion, and I'm trying to be more like proactive with reading fantasy, which is why I started the series to begin with, because I wanted to get them off of my chest. However, while reading this, I realized that it's not fantasy, it's mystery thriller. So I am not a big mystery thriller person. I don't really read them. I don't read adult mystery thriller. I don't read young adult like mystery thriller. It's just not the genre that I tend to lean towards. However, this series gripped me and I had to finish it. So for Arithmetic, I did pick up another YA mystery thriller, and I ended up completing the series, and that is Capturing the Devil by Karen Maniscalco, which is book 4 in the Stalking Jack the Ripper series. I loved this book so much, I ended up giving it a 5-star. Loved it. Loved this book. Out of the 4, book 2 is still my favorite. This is a close second, then book 1, then book 3. So for me, it's 2, 4, 1, 3. But I loved this book so much. This was more towards Audrey Rose's and Thomas's relationship than it was the mystery of who Jack the Ripper was, or who the second Jack the Ripper was. But I ultimately really enjoyed this. Again, gave it 5 stars. I loved this book so much. But it also did have some things. It's like, well, like, you know, unnecessary drama, unnecessary, you know, things with parents. It's just like, but it was still fun to read about, and I absolutely loved this book. So I'm so happy that I ended up picking this one up. I did count it for Arithmetic, even though I don't really read a lot of mystery thriller. I went ahead and picked this one up because I just had to finish the series this month, and I didn't think I was going to be able to fit in another huge fantasy book, so I went ahead and switched that one up. And then the last 2 books that I read were part of a series, and they were part of these as well. And for those, I'm going to pull them up. They were Kindle books, so I really apologize for the quality that you are about to see. But I did end up reading For Ancient Runes, it was, you had to read a book with a heart on the cover, and no matter what, you know, as long as there was a heart on the cover, you could read it. So for this one, it was, I picked Roaring Change by Marissa Dobson, and this is book 15 of the Alaskan Tiger series. Now, if you look at it, you don't really think there's a heart on it until you look in this little bitty corner where her initials are. I counted it, so I ended up finishing this. It was only about 150 pages. Like I said, at the end of my TBR, I was getting really close to not being finished, and so I just went ahead and picked up some books off of Kindle Unlimited. This was one of them with a little heart on it, and that was for Ancient Runes. And then the last book that I ended up reading, I gave this 3 stars, by the way, and then the last book I ended up reading was for Charms, which was Lumos Maxima, Read a Book with a White Cover. This one was rather heavily white, and that one is Frostbite by Marissa Dobson, which is book 14 in the Alaskan Tigers series. So I went ahead and did that, even though like it's majority white. It counts. So that was pretty much all I had for my books this month. I did not read anything extra. I did switch things around, obviously, but I did not, you know, I didn't cheat anyway. So that is pretty much it for all the books that I read. So I'm really happy with that. I did read a total of 8 things this month. And again, I will be having probably more being read in next month, but again, we will see on that. But with me completing my owls, it means I can go ahead and move on to the newts. I believe the newts happen sometime in August, September, October time frame. I remember, for some reason I remember it being in November last year, but I could be totally wrong. But that's pretty much it. That was for Mind Medic of my occupation. But let me know if you've read any of these books, what you thought about them, if you liked them, if you didn't. And that's pretty much it. All of my links to my social media will be in the description box below. Just know that I'm not really active on Twitter. I'm very active on Goodreads and Instagram. And I do believe I also have my... There's something else that's listed in the description box. But anyway, that's gonna be it for me today. If you liked this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you have any suggestions for videos that you want to see in the future, just let me know. And I will see you guys in my next one. Bye, guys.